Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Sunday School, Faith Place Bible Institute. Um, we are still talking about education and preparing your child for success because I'm not going to say POC. As Black people, our children, we are under attack. And the kids are under attack always. And if your child just cannot read at a third grade level in third grade, they're basically preparing that child for prison. They're not going to try to help that child. They're not going to, they just basically give up on them. And we're here at Faith Place, Chicago, we value education and we value children. So we want to give you some ideas of some ways that you can prepare your child for success. And we had a very live discussion last week about technology. Technology is the times, and we don't want your child to be unprepared, but we also want them to be more well-rounded. You have so many kids, and I had a discussion with someone last week. There are so many kids who are into the tablet or the phone all the time, where to the point where they do not have any social skills. None. They don't know how to connect with someone. And I tell you, if you look at these kids who are always on the tablet, always in the phone, always on these things, you look into the eyes and it's void. There's nothing there. They don't know how to connect. They'll text you in the same room because they don't know how to communicate through conversation. So I'm not bashing, because technology, I'm not tech savvy. And there was a point where I was keeping up as it was growing, but then things shifted and I didn't shift with it because I wasn't paying thousands of dollars for a phone. It is ridiculous. When I needed a new phone, they says, do you want XYZ? I said, I want it free. I want to make a phone call. I'm not trying to I have a camera. I don't need pictures. I'm cheap. I'm not ashamed to say that. $1,000. I'm thinking, what can I do with $1,000? A lot I can do with $1,000. And it's not going to phone that could break, will break. And a lot of the people that I knew had these phones that they spent $1,000. It was barely working. I had one conversation with a guy who was very tech. He says, his was always in the shop, always in the shop. And that reminded me of my car. It was in the shop more than I drove it. But I was looking at a video some time ago of a young woman, and I hope it was a joke. But this is okay. Thank you. We're a tech church. So what I saw, the woman, and I hope, like I said, I hope it was a joke, but she was saying, and I know it's an analog clock, but I was talking about the hands, and there's 4 sections, and somebody said, oh, it's 2:45, and they says, well, just say it's 2:75. Well, she might have meant it as a joke or satire or whatever, but someone listening to her, not knowing that it's a joke, thinking, oh, that's the way you tell time from an analog clock. And I know they're not teaching working with cursive. So there's some things as a parent that you will have to, good morning, Sister Jackie. There's some things as a parent that you would have to supplement what the school is not offering your child. I don't know if they still have those little pads where they learn how to write numbers and alphabets and cursive, but you can do that yourself. If the school is not doing it, you do it. Because I'm just thinking, how do they sign their signature if they don't know how to use cursive? Do they just write it? Then someone else can write their name. And, because my signature is very unique, and I would love to see somebody try to copy it because they were not. But we were trying to, what I was trying to get is parents who have older kids who've gone through the pre-K, the K, the grade school, what you did to set your child up for success. And Sister Jackie said that she used dominoes, cubes or whatever you call them, to teach her child the counting. My nephew was struggling in math at one point, and I decided to take him. I was tutoring them, but it wasn't working. So I decided to start from the beginning. Some teachers will not do that, but I took him to a site and I tutored a lot of kids, and I started from 1+1. And I took every step until I got to the step where he missed. And once I showed him that transition, I never had to tutor him again. And senior high school, he was in honors calculus. So, and getting calls from Air Force and many, many colleges wanting him to come to the engineering program, which was his desire. But my goal and our goal as FPBI is to set not only you but your child up for success. We have a government that is basically trying to put their feet on our necks to keep us down. Not just black people, but everybody. If you're not of the 1% wealthy, they basically don't care. They're talking about lowering the age of working overnight to 14 because they want to get rid of education. So they want to be able to let the kids work in factories, let the kids work in the fields. And this way they don't have to pay them even minimum wage. So they want to pay them, these kids, to work in factories overnight and in the fields and pay them less than minimum wage because they're greedy, and they don't care. If you don't fit in their small circle, they really don't care about you. And what my thoughts was to put a thought in your head to make you think, okay, what can I do to prepare my child for success? Because even though, like I said, they stack so much against you and your kids that they don't really care, but you love your child. And I've spoken many times, it takes a village. Because you as a parent, even if it's a 2-parent home, you as a parent, you don't know everything. There's somebody else who may have other knowledge, other skills that they can pass on to your child. And that way your child could be very well-rounded. They do, like I will say it again, they need technology. They need to understand. They need to know all of this so they can get a step ahead. And I want them not just to thrive, but I want them to exceed some of these people out here, because if with the transfer of wealth, if your child have all these skills, start businesses, start something, build something that not only can help you and yours, but to somebody else. Proverbs 22:6, I've said this week, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. Education is very important. Education is very important. The Lord is very, because I said once before, good morning, Evangelist Sibby. Yes, Jackie, kids need a routine. They need to have a scheduled routine because that makes them feel secure. If they know, okay, tomorrow, the next day, they know what's coming. I remember a time I went to the dentist and he had his back to me and he was doing something on this table. And I asked him, "Are you giving me a shot?" And, because needles don't bother me, but in my face, we have issues. I have issues. And so I asked him, "Will you give me a shot?" And he didn't say anything. And he turned around and he was hiding the needle. And I'm looking. And he says, "Why are you looking?" "Because I'm trying to hide it from you." I says, "I need to know." And he says, "Yes, you need another shot." I said, "Okay, I can prepare myself for that." Kids need to know because they can easily become anxious or nervous or, sister.
So I have
Yes.
and you want them to have those social skills, what's the best way of kind of, or like the best methods, I would say, where you could still incorporate the
Schedule.
technology?
Schedule.
Okay.
Say, because Sister Jackie, routines give them balance. You want to give their life a balance. And if it's skewed in one direction, they're not going to succeed. Because you're looking at, you see a lot of these tech folks, they have, look at Zuckerberg, look at, they have no social connection. They look like robots. They carry themselves like robots. And you don't want, I know she needs a mic, but no one here to get one for her. So she was asking, I'm sorry, Sister Jasmine was asking, what can you do with if they want to always be on their tablet or whatever, be in technology, and how can you basically put a balance to it? You need a schedule. You need to say, okay, you know what? There's some times when you need to put it down, either for homework or being a child. They still need to be a child. They still need, like your kids are playing with the balloon, they still need to be carefree as a child and run around outside.
So what if you have kids that I would say the old-fashioned way of learning, where you have to write stuff down on a piece of paper, to kind of show them how. What if it's harder though for them to kind of pick it up that way, even like breaking it down one step by step, but it's more easier for them to pick it up technology-wise, like
Well, there's different ways. Okay, you cannot. This is me. You cannot. Even when we were talking a couple of weeks ago about raising them, and everything is cute. You can't wait till they're teenagers to start teaching them boundaries. You can't wait till they're older to start teaching. Everything has to start from day one. If you have in your mind, okay, I want my child to be well-rounded, then you have to start from day one. If you start with schedules for their technology, the tablets, if you give them, she was like, what if as always, if you start from day one, because this is a tech world, but if you start from day one, and because see, when I was little, and I've talked about this, when my mother, because I was the last one, when my mother would go to the doctor's office, everybody was in school but me. It wasn't ready for me, time for me to go to school yet. If she had to go to the doctor's office or someplace, I sat there next to her. I didn't have a tablet because that was not invented back then. She didn't even give me a book, a toy. I had to sit there and be quiet. I wasn't running around because God help me if I did, because she would have snatched me and I would have lost some years in my life. Pastor, can you get a mic for her to, because she's asked a couple of questions and the people, Sister Regina, Evangelist Regina, was like, she needs a mic. Pastor been busy, so I had to learn how to sit quiet, and kids need to learn how to be able to self-regulate. But if they getting stimulated all the time, there's no time where they can learn to be in themselves and self-regulate. Because the goal is to have them well-rounded. I am very for learning technology. We're in the process of getting things, for the neighborhood, for adults, because there are some adults who don't know technology. There's a lot of people, even kids, because the head of education, says that the kids are going to learn A1, but she mean AI. And you don't know. I'm just thinking, this is my thoughts, and I hope I'm wrong, but I don't see them taking that to the inner city schools. I will hope that they would not show their bias and pass it to the knowledge to every child. But I can see them using that technology, using that knowledge to certain kids. And my thought is, we can supplement. We can help the parents or help the kids learn different things. And if you know and you can teach your child, that's why the village, because you may not know everything, but your village, somebody or a few people in your village may know some things. So we just wanted to make sure that, because it's best, I'm of the thought of it's better to have more than not enough. And helping your kids succeed in grade school involves a holistic approach that nurtures both their academic and personal development, because you don't want to impede their personal development, because that will handicap them in more ways than you may realize, because they will be labeled as, they throw the ADHD on everybody, or ADD. Sister Jackie says, with technology, as parents, we must manage them, show them things on their grade level that they can see. For me, it was Schoolhouse Rock, and Gumby Schoolhouse Rock taught me. The preamble for Kennedy was Veggie Tales. I show her. Now, there are things that you can do with the technology. You can learn another language. You can help teach them with their math. You can, if they have a problem with math, you can use that for practical things. And I'm sure if you can't find those little pads, but it's something with the pen in their hand that they need that. Scribbling with your finger. My signature, everybody's talking about is bad, but that's even crazy. You are, you are the authority as a parent. That's your child. And there's so many things, and you have to, if your child is on technology, you have to know everything that they're doing. I don't care how old they are. If they're teenagers, you need to know. If they're preteen, you need to know, because there's so many people. There's a class action with Roblox. They're targeting children. There's so many ways that they're using. You have bad people in everything. And you have to prepare your child. You cannot have your head in the sand or up in the sky, thinking, oh, just pray God will take care of it. But faith without works is dead. You got to put some boots on the ground. You got to put your hand in it. You got to be present. You can't just give them the tablet to shut them up, because that reminds me of a kid. He's grown now, but when he was learning how to talk, that the baby gibble, they used to stick a ball in his mouth or stick something in his mouth. So he didn't really learn to talk till he was about 4. So they stunted his growth because they didn't want to go through the normal daily process of children learning. Because like I said, the first 3 years of their lives, they're learning so much. They watch everything. You don't think that these kids see it, they see it. My niece, when she was a baby, they was like, oh, she's mimicking the way you eat. Thank God I had good table manners, because she had me down to she had me. But you have to, it's like you got to see what everything's going on at the same time. And it is a lot. Being a parent is not easy. No, being a parent is not easy. Even if there's 2 parents, it's not easy. That's why you need a good village. By the time your children are getting ready to start kindergarten, they've already taken a lot of information to help them ready for school. They have basic understanding of themselves, the family, and the world around them. Now, they see the world around them, and it could be chaotic, or it could be soothing, or it could be a hinder to them, or it could be an asset to them. They see that, and that's when they learn, am I safe? They don't know the words, but they know the feeling. Other things to do your children to give them a leg up for their school careers, what do you think of? What can you do for those of you who have older kids? What did you do for your kids? That some of these younger people who may not have a village yet, and you can Give them some information. Establish a strong foundation. Read to your kids regularly. This builds a love of reading, expands vocabulary, and improves language skills, which are crucial for academic success. Please don't talk baby talk to your kids, people. Speak English. Speak English. They're trying, they just don't know how to form those words, but you talking Google Gaga, no, speak English. Because my niece was a baby, and she was talking in the talk, and she was crying. I said, girl, stop all that fuss and just say what's on your mind. And she was blah, 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 mama. And her mom, I was like, what did you do to this baby? She's like, I didn't do anything. Well, she was mad at you because she fussed and said, mama. When you finish a book, discuss what you just read and engage their critical thinking. Not only their critical thinking, but they can understand what you just read. Yeah, they really understand, because you can read something like, did I just comprehend? Did I know what's it about? Tell me, because there was a child that I knew who used to make up stories. Good morning, Evangelist Wiley. She says, we as parents have to be authority. We start off in my house as a dictatorship. We all know you're a dictator. Then as we go, also introduce democracy. Girl, you are still a dictator. Your kids are grown, but you still a dictator. Go wear your crown, girl. But you get people, because you're preparing them for school. That's why I said, once they get to the point where they can read themselves, let them read out loud, because they will get, I forgot what, hi, Mitzi, get to a point where their class have to read out loud. And I had a friend who it would terrify her. Thank God she was sitting behind me. And she didn't stutter, but when she had to read, she stuttered. And she would get so nervous, and she would grab my hand and squeeze it so tight. I'm sure I lost the feeling of my fingers. And I would whisper, act like you're talking to me. Just act like you're talking to me. She would get so scared and nervous. And once she got through that, she was just almost shaking. But if you start them off while you teach them to read, and then they learning to read, like, okay, read out loud. And, okay, what did it say? Tell me what did it say? And like I said, this little girl, she would come up with stories, and I would say, she would make them up, and we were in the grocery store. And I said, I would ask questions about her stories. Okay, well, what does this happen? What happened then? Who did what? And whatnot. And she went through a trauma. So I was like, tell me a story. And the trauma always, included police, and because that was part of her trauma. And there was a point, and I was always, questioning, okay, what happened then? And then it got to the point where all the stories, then the police was no longer in her trauma, in her stories. So I'm like, okay, she's grown out of this. Sister Jackie says her oldest son, she worked at night and volunteered at his school when she got off. That is you have to be present. My mother often showed up at the school. My father said, because back then corporal punishment was prevalent, and my parents were like, if they need to be hit, we'll come and do it. You just call and we are there. And my mother would show up. You don't know when that lady's gonna walk through that door. And God to help you if you was doing something bad at that time. Visit the library. I love libraries. If you can find one, Michael's like, libraries? Yes. Visit the library. They have children's library. They do things with the kids, for the kids. Let there be a routine. You can show your child how to find books and how to rent them. You can even attend story time at the library. Sing rhyming songs with your child. It teaches them words and engage their imagination. Encourage curiosity and exploration. Expose your child to new experiences through trips to the zoo, library, museums, or even exploring the neighborhood and nature. Take your child to a grocery store, the post office, even the pet store. Talk to them to the things you see, how different things work. It helps develop their understanding of the world around them even before they go to school. See, we're trying to prepare them, set them up, because when I got to Head Start, it was terrifying. It was traumatizing because there were some kids, they were the wildest kids. I have never seen anybody that wild in my life. They was climbing on the desk, and I was thinking, oh my gosh. So the teacher was like, Kathy, you know all this stuff, but I need to talk to them. And I stood back like, go ahead, because they were scaring me because I wasn't used to all that craziness. And, because I had one of them dictator mamas. They can say she take all 5 of us to the grocery store, and I can promise you not one time did she have to say, well, where's any of us? Because if she did, Jesus would have had to told his father, I need to go down because it's not time for them to die, but they're about to get killed. Because Rita Callahan did not play. Teach your child basic colors by pointing and naming objects. Simple descriptions like the green tree or red apple or blue coat. Give them puzzles and games that require counting or problem solving, like what Sister Jackie did with the dominoes. You can also get them to use scribbling, drawings, writing, cutting, and pasting. Early school years use all these skills. Because when I was little, and I was, like I say, everyone else was in school, my mother didn't put me in front of the television. We had one television in the house. I'm at the kitchen table while she's doing whatever she's doing in the kitchen, and I got a pencil and a paper. So I always had to have me a pencil and a paper, and I always liked the little point, so we had a pencil sharpener. So I always had my pencil and paper, and I don't know what I was doing, but I was doing something. And I thank God that that she didn't just sit me in front of the television. That was with School Rock and all that stuff. That wasn't then. So by the time they came out, I was older. Develop listening skills. Engage in conversations. Read aloud and minimize screen time to encourage focus, listening, and attention spans. Also encourage your child to read out loud as well when like I said, basic academic skills. Practice recognizing letters, numbers, shapes. Back in the day, they used to have those little magnets to go in refrigerators. They still have them. You can still do that. And form words. We used to form words on there. She used to have my mother, would have the kids can form words on there. Learn words, colors, and shape. Engage in activities that promote counting and sorting. My mother used to drop, I don't know how she get all this change. She used to drop all this change on the bed and say, count it. Okay, I counted everything. I even was counting the street lights on the way to the hospital when I broke my arm. I'm saying like 1, 2, all the way to the west side Cook County. So problem solving skills like playing with blocks. You can reinforce their learning with alphabet magnets, like I said, on the fridge, and practice writing their name with them and other simple words. And like Sister Jackie said, she would buy, if her child was at this level, she would buy stuff at this level so that they can reach up to that. And that way, you can put the mic up up at the front. They can prepare them for the next, so they can be ahead. That's probably why, Kennedy is so intelligent, because if you expand their knowledge, if you push them to go further than where they are. Setting a positive tone and environment. Talk positively about school. I love school. School was my sanctuary. I love school. Share enthusiasm for learning and emphasize the importance of education. Kids love to be the clapping and cheering when they do something good. That positive reinforcement. They love that. Create supportive learning. Good morning, Mother. Create positive learning environment at home. Designate a quiet, well-lit space for homework and studying. Stack with the necessary supplies. Good morning, Evangelist. Foster healthy habits. Ensure adequate sleep, a nutritious breakfast, regular physical activity. Kids are still kids. Kids are still kids, and they need to be kids. You cannot keep them, down. Let them rip and run. Let them rip and run. You don't want them, good morning, Mother Smith. You don't want them to just to be sit down and, be robots. That's what we trying not to let your kids be a robot, like these people who are just all tech. They're like a shell of a man. And we want your kids, our kids to be, because they're all our kids. They're all our kids. And we want them to be well-rounded. We want to set them up for success. Practice to boost energy and cognitive function. Establish a consistent daily routine. Like we said earlier, they need the routine, regular wake up and bedtimes, dedicated study periods, and scheduled playtime. Help children feel secure and prepared. They need to feel secure. Partner with the school and teachers. Communicate regular with teachers. I think the teachers prefer when the parents are involved with the kids, because unfortunately there are some who think the teacher's job is to parent the child, and that's not her job. And if you don't do your job as the parent, then that sets up the whole classroom as a failure, because if she's busy taking care of your child who you didn't raise and train, that messes up other people who send their kids there to learn. Attend parent-teaching conference and back-to-school nights to discuss progress and any concerns that you may have. Visit the school and its website. Familiarize yourself with the layout. Support homework expectations. Understand the school's homework policies, and help provide environment for that. Because as they go up in school years, homework is more complex, and it's a lot. Get involved in school community. Volunteer in the classroom if you're able. Some people are not. They have jobs. They cannot do it. You can do what you can. Join parent-teaching groups or attend school events to demonstrate your commitment to your child's education. That is a commitment. That is a full-time commitment, because being a parent, you never stop being a parent. I don't care if your child is 30, 40, 50, that's still your child. And you still think of them as your child, and you treat them as your child. And because if they get sick, if they get hurt, because I remember I was grown, and I was having a really bad asthma attack, and the look on my mother's face, there's nothing she could do about it, but she ended up having to take me to the emergency room, but she was still a parent, even though I was, technically grown. But that's still your child. And as a parent, especially when they're young, that's a 24/7, 365 job. There is no off channel. There's no off channel. You still the parent. Sister Hines say, kids love it when they're doing a good job, and you seal the deal with celebrating the accomplishments. Oh, yes. They love praise. They love to be praised. They love that positive reinforcement does more than negative. Because if you fussing at them, they shut them down. If they make a mistake, mistakes happen. Like my mother said, that's why you have erasers on the other side of the pencil. You will make a mistake. Sister Michelle said 5th grade was her son's year of shenanigans. So he went to the whole year, every day, easy. But you know what? I said this to somebody. We're setting the kids up for success. You have to know your kid. And I told someone, your kids are intelligent. They're very intelligent. And you would think that if your child is like that they will have it easy in school. Sometimes that's the hardest, especially if the teacher's not acknowledging that child is brilliant and they're bored. That's the worst thing your child, because my sister, she was in 5th grade. Yeah, she was in 5th grade, I think. And I think she was going through some hard times. The teacher said, I thought you were dumb, but the problem is you just too smart. And she was. She was very smart. And I told her, I said, when your kid, if you're very smart and you're in a class where you're not being challenged, it can really, it makes you think that a very intelligent kid would just thrive. If they're not challenged, it will show as if they are not intelligent. I had a nephew when my sister changed him to another school, and I forgot what grade he was. He was young, 3rd, 4th grade, whatever. And he took a 600 question. He had to take a test to get into the school. There were 600 questions. He didn't miss one. And his mind was just, like his mama. His mind was just out there. It was just too much. And you have to, and I told someone, you're going to have to supplement your child because they're very intelligent. And school may not be enough. And especially if you want them to stay in their grades, to be amongst their peers. Because, you've been seeing a lot of these geniuses, these brilliant children who getting their degrees at 10 and 12, and they getting PhDs at 15 and whatnot. So, but they're still 15. Their mind is brilliant, but they're still a child. Evangelist Wiley says, you need to know your child. Some of them need more of a stern hand than others. It is not one size fit all. Oh, no. It's not one size fit all. And they will not kill them. No, kids are not one. Parents know their children. Moms know their kids. They may want to deny it, but you know your child. And my mother said something about me, and I was like, no. But years later, when I was doing or whatever what she said, I was like, how did she know this? How did she know this about me? But moms, you know your kids. You've had been with them more than anybody else because they were inside of you for 9 months. So you know them more than anybody. And it's really something because you have to, it's not a one size fit all. I appreciated my job where my director says, it's not a one size fit all. Every parent, I worked for DCFS, every case come in, it's not about drugs. So you need to do your job, assess them and see what's going on. So as your child, you can have 4 or 5 kids. Each child is different. Some kid may need more, some kid may need less. The ones that need more, you don't take away from those that might need less. You still give them. Some kids might need more help with their learning, and some kids may not. Those of you who had kids, what did you do for your child, for your kids? Mother, evangelist, you have older kids. What did you do for your kids that helped prepare them for success or for their growth? I have a mic up here. It's on the front row, I think. Because you have successful kids. You have one, so what did you do? And you have one that's coming up, and she's pretty intelligent. So what did you do? What are the things that you did for your kids?
Well, good morning. Outside, because Ramon was really smart. Well, all of them are really smart, but they get bored easy. So Ramon was that kid that came home. He was like, ain't nothing else they could teach me. He was like, I'm not interested. It's boring, whatever. So I kind of like put him in different things outside of school to challenge him or gave him things to do or like, okay, since you crossed that hurdle, what's next?
Right.
What is it that you plan on doing? So I kind of make them look into their own future and set themselves up and put in their mind and in their heads as to what they want to do and how to accomplish it, how to get there. So right now, Journey's 14. I asked her, what is it she want to do? So I said, why? She said, can I get rich off of it? I said, you tell me, how much does that money equal? How much do you?
Right.
So I kind of like set them up. I want you to see the blueprint. You know what I'm saying? Instead of me telling you what you need to do, you know what you need to do. Now you go out and achieve it and set your mind on it. You know, set yourself up for it. Yeah.
And people don't think about, that's where it starts. Because I remember, when I was in 8th grade, I loved math. I've always loved math. And I had, visions of what, I had the conversation with my mother, I was little, and I didn't remember it, but she told me, she said, I said, I wanted to be a doctor. And she said, we were talking about doctors or nurses. And I came back, she said, I came back and I asked her, who makes more money? And then I asked her, she says, well, the nurse works under the doctor. I said, no. No, I will be the doctor. So when you think about, if they think about what they want, you don't start going to college. You start in high school. If you want to get to something that's, because I did 4 years of math and 4 years of science, because I was going into the sciences. And I loved math, and I didn't like basic science. I tell the truth, shame the devil. Me in history, talk about, I don't care about what happened way back when, or the clouds, that kind of science. We talk about the shapes of the clouds. That's snooze fest for me. I'm sorry. I really don't care. But when they put that scalpel in my hand in biology, I was done. I was the designated cutter. I cut everything. The hardest one was the worm, because it was so small and so thin. But you had to cut without cutting the inside. So everybody else was like, oh, I can't, hand it to me. Give it to me. I cut. Technical difficulties. Okay, can you hear me now? Thank you. So you have to know your kids. You have to, it's like, just like Evangelist says, whatever they desire, when they go into high school, if it's something that requires math or sciences, build up on that. And if I can add, if you have a child going into high school, and next week I'm going to start talking about high school. If you have a child that's going to high school, start off with languages. Because we're preparing for not just we're preparing for adulthood, but we're also preparing if they go to college. So when I talk to little kids, when I went to college, I didn't have anyone to tell me what to prepare for or what to expect. It was trial and error. I remember my roommate and I, we were looking at the school, the class schedules and class. So we were like, how did this work? Did we just take every class? We didn't know the breakdown. We didn't know how it worked. So, because I didn't have anybody to tell me, to prepare me, and I guess neither did she. So we were sitting there trying to figure out, we didn't even know how to say the name. So we were going downstairs, like probably for dinner or something, and it was another student, and we were like, Eleni? The woman said, since you go here, it's Illini. You need to know how to say the name of your school. It's Illini. Like, okay, thank you. And when we went into school, to classes, and we saw how they broke down the classes for your major, we're like, oh, that's how it was done. And then when I ended up with a bootleg advisor who did not do his job. He was probably worse than the advisor from high school, who should not be in that job, should have not been in that job. But I had to, listening to him set me back even further. So when I transferred to UIC, I became my own advisor. And I had to figure out how to maneuver my own education. Sister Michelle says, Rita was a bit wiser. Her freshman year in high school, she tried it. School was calling for, She wore jogging suit they hated, showed up. That's what the parents used to say. You act a fool in school, I'm going to come there with rollers on. I'm going to come there and embarrass you. And kids don't want you to be embarrassed in school. So she said she came with the jogging suit that they hated, sat with lunch with every class. That was the first time they tried. Yeah, you have to be present no matter what it takes. Because, like I said, my mother would show up in a minute. You look up and see somebody come in the door, it's your mom, like, oh, God. And you hope and pray that at that moment she walked in the door, you was not doing something wrong. Because my mother's motto was, where you act a fool is where I act a fool. And you do not want her to snatch you in your classroom. Because she did not care and she did not apologize. Good morning, Sister Phillips. Yes, we do. You have to prepare your kids. So we just want, we were talking earlier about technology. Technology is in. It is the thing. They have to know this. But what we want to do is set our kids up for success. That means well-rounded. Because if you look at the highest tech people, they look like robots. They carry themselves like robots. They have zero social skills. They do not know how to communicate, and they do not know how to look you in the eye as from one human being to another, because they're just tech. They're very robotic. Even the way Zuckerberg carries himself, or what is the other, Musk, the way they carry themselves, they look robotic. Like they just put some flesh on a robot, and they know, like, okay, you're not human. You've gone so deep into technology that you forgot that you're a human. And that's what we want our kids. We want to prepare them. So even in grade school, you know, if I could tell the old me, I know history was boring. I know basic science was boring, but still put into it because that was necessary. I have a friend who loved history. God bless you and your ministry, but it was not me. But it was important. So what would you do with a child who didn't like certain courses or certain classes? What would you do with them? How would you talk them through that? Because like I said, if I can talk to the old me, I would tell them, look, it's still necessary. You still need to learn. So what did you do, or what would you do for yours? Because I know every kid did not every subject. But I love me some trig. Trig was fun to me. I love trigonometry. I loved it, besides languages, and biology. But what would you do with your kid if they didn't like a certain class or certain topics that they still need to learn? Because we want to take them through. Encourage independent growth and responsibility. Assign age-appropriate chores and empower your child to make choices and manage tasks. Promote a growth mindset. Encourage effort and persistence. Celebrate progress. And teach your child to see challenges as opportunities for learning. You know, there's no such thing as failure. I had a conversation with someone when I was in school. She was broken. She was just so distraught, something that she was going through. And I told her, she was like, I failed. I said, you did not fail. You had a setback. What happens determines if you failed is what you do about it. If you give up, yeah, you just let it happen. But if you keep fighting, well, yeah, you whip your kids in school back then. They want to bring that back. They don't want you to whip your kids, but they want to bring corporal punishment back in school. So then they want them to do, spank your kids, and they also want them to be, carry guns just in case something happens. So there's a whole lot for the teachers. So what did you do? What would you do, or if you had a kid who, say, didn't like certain classes that Sister Jackie said she would find a way and encourage that they can be done. they can't escape. No, you can't escape it. I had to talk to myself. I had to talk to myself, okay, Kathy, I know you don't like this, but you got to pay attention. You got to, get through this. And failing was not an option for me, so, I had to do it. I had to get into it. I had to learn it and study it. Like, okay, I don't remember the clouds, names. Cumulus, that's the only thing I can think of. Cumulus, I think it's cumulus, I don't know. But we want to, like I say, we want to make sure that kids are well-rounded, not just tech. But they can use their technology to beef up their Spanish. If they're taking Spanish, they can use the technology to, help them with their languages. They can use technology to help them with, it is an aid. It is a tool. And they can use that as a tool, not as their life. Take over their life. Brother Thaddeus, what do you have to offer? What do you have to say? You've gone through school. You've gone through life. What is, if you have a conversation with someone who have a young child, a boy, you were one, so what would you advise them?
Good habits.
Yeah.
Good habits. Establishing a foundation. I think that as a young man growing up in, poverty-stricken environments, going to CPS public schools, not really having the option to, they have STEM schools now. They have schools for athletes. They have schools for musicians, creative art schools. So I think it's establishing a foundation, like before it even gets to school, like a solid bedtime.
Yes.
Like someone said, chores. These kids don't do chores, so they think money grow on trees for real. Like,
Right.
so it's the day-to-day lessons that's being missed. I sort of say, like, I remember having to lay out my uniform the night before. It's certain things that I don't think parents or kids value. I don't think the parents value for the kid because they don't. It just.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Right. They don't think about the long term.
Yes.
They don't, the long run. They don't think, they think in the moment and they don't realize that you teaching your child how to sit quiet. You teaching your child how to self-regulate. You teaching your child the basics of life. They don't think about how that would be, or push past. Like, even I had to push past my dislike of
Yeah.
history, or push
Conflict
past.
resolution.
Yes.
Like, so.
Yes.
And it's also like, I'm hearing a lot now, like, well, my kids don't have representation there. Like, we didn't have
We didn't have-
representation there.
no.
Like, we knew how to speak for ourselves. And when it came down to mama and daddy because of school, well, Thaddeus said this. That I gave Thaddeus the right to speak in that
Right.
way. So it's a not doing as I say,
Right.
and actually showing them how we do,
Right.
instead of just, just giving them these tablets. Because, like you say, with tech being the way it is,
Wait a minute,
humanity doesn't exist.
Can you all hear him? Can you all hear him? They said the sound is low.
Testing.
Oh, he's gone. Okay, that's
Testing. So with humanity being the way that it's being, humanity is gonna be extinct. They ChatGPT, they putting all this stuff on these tablets and internet where it's images, it's lights, is wording that they put on these strings that's meant to brainwash and help and hurt our kids. But if we're not taking these tablets away and just using them, like, I think a tablet and a book is the same thing. They both got
right.
needs.
Right.
So you can't have one without the other. Same way you can't always celebrate a kid. You got to tell them no as well.
Exactly.
And I think the word no has became, it comes with an explanation when my no means no.
Back in the day, mama said no, she didn't expound. She didn't try to explain or, if you got your feelings hurt, she didn't care. No, I said no, discussion's over. There's, what's this thing called? They call now soft parenting. That's the worst you can do.
Gentle parenting.
Yes, gentle parenting. Whereas woo, 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 I mean, let's face it. I had a friend who, co-worker, she had 4 kids. And she said something that was very, I never thought of it like that. She says, I'm raising adults. Mm-hmm. You are raising your children to be adults. So you need to equip them with what they need to be an adult.
But that goes back to scripture. Like Jesus, God never told nobody exactly what he wanted for them. Like he told Lot and Abraham to separate. Mm-hmm. He didn't tell them what was the outcome. He just gave them direction. And everybody want more when just
lay it all out.
Just being guided a certain way is enough, because you have to go through your own bumps, hurdles, and detours.
Exactly. Because, sometimes, they say old school. Sometimes the jewels were old school. And you need to bring them back. You need to have them. Because when mama said no, no meant no. That was one sentence. That was a whole sentence. And she did not have to come back. And if you got your feelings hurt, you straighten your face. She will straighten your face for you. If you huff back, that hand came from nowhere. I don't know. They were superpowers. Because we were taking physics exam final, and we found out that in high school, our physics teacher says, well, the school said I had to give an exam. He didn't say it had to matter to the class. So we found okay, so we just taking the test. So we had we were in a separate room in the library taking this test, and we were just having a big old discussion. Someone said, my mama's shoe turns corners. Like my mama throw a shoe at you, it's gonna find you wherever you are and knock you upside your head. And kids will go between parents and try to, manipulate.
That's right.
But you have to be on one accord. You got to be on one accord. Like, okay, we are raising these kids, or they go to grandma, grandpa, to get out of something, and. So we're talking about, like you said, the tablet is a tool. Books, they're tools. I'm rounding. And we're talking about preparing them for whatever comes, because you don't know, with the way things are changing, you don't know what's going to happen next year or a couple of years. So we want to give your child critical thinking. If you teach them critical thinking all along, so whatever comes, they are equipped with what they need. They can figure out, help discuss, and figure out where to go and how to navigate through this. And that's what we want. We want to help be their village so that your child is ready for whatever comes. And that's all that matters. Because if things change the way they change, you want to be able to, your child to be able to change along with it and not fall short. That is what our goal is. That is what every parent goal is, to have their child be ready for whatever comes. And I just want to thank you all for today and for your input, and all of you online. If you in Chicago, 71st and Stewart, 354 West 71st Street, there's a blockade, but I went through it. Don't tell anybody, don't tell the police on me. But so God bless you. I'm at 10 o'clock, Faith Place. Have a wonderful day.